how to fix Paris Saint-Germain so they can be a strong contender for the Champions League next season and potentially even win it. Let's get straight into this. First of all, the big situation I would say is the managerial role. I believe Christophe Galtier will be sacked at the end of the season. He will not be sacked before the end of the season, but he will be sacked at the end of this season. And the two candidates for the job looks like to be either Jose Mourinho or Thomas Tuchel. I don't think Zidane is on the cards anymore, but either Thomas Tuchel or Jose Mourinho, both of them play a three at the back, so it would suit us how we have played this season so far. But if I had to guess who's gonna come, I think it's Jose Mourinho, with Luis Campos staying as the sporting director for next season, giving another chance at this club. I think he will want to bring Jose Mourinho. He's already had contacts with him. Of course, Tuchel, that's what Nasser maybe wants, and the Emir of Qatar as well know wants Zidane. But it's looking like Mourinho will be working alongside Luis Campos for Paris Saint-Germain next season. And I think that Jose Mourinho suits Paris Saint-Germain perfectly. He has that us against the world mentality, which I think suits Paris Saint-Germain really well, because we are a really hated club for many different reasons. And that goes with Mourinho. He's a manager that can take critique, that can take the squad, that can be with superstars without having a big issue. And one other great thing about Jose Mourinho is he's a specialist when it comes to cup competition. We've seen him win the Conference League last season with AS Roma, and winning the Europa League probably this season with AS Roma again, and maybe the Champions League with Paris Saint-Germain next season. Second most important thing is what Luis Campos has to do. He has to refresh the squad, aka sell what needs to be sold and buy what needs to be bought. From a lot of reports, it is said that Paris Saint-Germain have at the moment a budget for the summer of 45 million. They should have had an 80 million budget, but with Hugo Ekitike's loan being an obligation, we have to pay around 35 million to Stade de Reims, which means we will only be left with 45 million without selling and without buying anyone. And here's where Luis Campos' jobs comes in. First of all, every player that comes back from loan, he has to sell. He has to sell, because most of them will only have 1 year remaining of their contract, and these are players that are not good enough to play for us and should not be at this club. So we need to get value for them. How little, how small the amount is, if you add everything together, we can get a good price. First player is Mauro Icardi, 50 million. I'm predicting we can sell him on after his great season so far with Galatasaray. Abdou Diallo is next up. Even with his injury at RB Leipzig, I still think we can get a price around 50 million for him. Wijnaldum, another player that has been injured this season away at Roma, I think we can get 7 million for him. Julian Draxler, I believe we also can go around 5 to 7 million, sell him to a Bundesliga club. Lavin Kurzawa, I believe we can get around 5 million for him. Leandro Paredes, I think we can get around 13 million for him. Ibimbe is already sold to Eintracht Frankfurt because he has a loan with an option to buy, but it is said that if Frankfurt stay in the Bundesliga, it becomes an obligation to buy, and we get around 8 million. Colin Dagba will be sold, of course, with us having Mukiel and even Pembele as backup right back, so 7 million for him. Keylor Navas to be sold for 3 million, and Michoud has a clause for 2.5 million at Sunderland, and he's been performing well there, so I believe they will take it. So these are not hard to get rid of, but all of these players combined will give us a total of 82.5 million euros. And then it comes to the players that are playing at the moment at Paris Saint-Germain that we need to sell, and those players are Fabian Ruiz, 15 million I think we can get for him, Carlos Soler 12 million, and Juan Bernat 7 million. Of course, these three Spanish players are all linked away from Paris Saint-Germain, and they're all on the transfer list, so these are players that Paris Saint-Germain and Luis Campos is looking to get rid of. Two other players that maybe we could sell as well is Pembele. Of course, as I said, we already have Mukiel as a backup right back, and Pembele has not been great for us so far this season. Even Warren Zaire Emre has had to play as a right back. That's how shit Pembele has been for us this season. So we may be looking to sell him for around 7 million. And Renato Sanchez, there's a question mark if we should sell him or not. Benfica is looking like the club that wants to get him back, and the price would be around 10 million. So the players that we sell that are currently at the club will give us a price of 29 million euros. And if you add that with the 45 million budget and with the 82.5 million euros we can get from the players that are on loan that we should sell, we'll get a budget of around 151 million, which is pretty much the exact amount that we used last summer. And this time we actually need to use it well. Of course, one player is already a confirmed deal to Paris Saint-Germain, which is Milan Skriniar. He will be joining us next season. So we already have a world-class centre-back joining us for free in the summer. Then when it comes to the squad, I have two probable lineups, because there's one where Messi is in it and one where Messi is not in the lineup, because it's still 50-50 if Lionel Messi will extend with Paris Saint-Germain or he will leave back to Barcelona. The first one is with Lionel Messi in the lineup, and this is what it looks like. Donnarumma in goal, Marquinhos, Skriniar, Danilo Pereira in the backline, Nuno Hakimi fullbacks, Vitinha, Verratti pivot, and Neymar, Messi, and Mbappe up top. Of course, this is the probable starting lineup. And then if you look at the bench starting lineup, of course, these are the players that we will need to buy. Of course, Rico we already have, Bichabu we already have, Ramos we already have, Kimpembe we already have, Mukiele we already have, but then Kone, that's a player that Paris Saint-Germain have been linked with so far this season and would be a great acquisition, around 45 million euros. Kefran Thuram as well, another player that we're linked with and could potentially join Paris Saint-Germain, would be around the same price of 45 million euros. Guerrero would be a free deal coming to Paris Saint-Germain. His contract runs out this summer. Xavi Simons, of course, has a clause for 12 million to return to Paris Saint-Germain, and I hope that we can give him the right advice to come back to Paris Saint-Germain and show that we have a plan for him and there is a space for him. And Marcus Thuram, who is also available on a free this summer, and the last player is Cherki, available for around 45 million euros, and all of these together is around the 150 million mark. Of course, you can, if Xavi doesn't want to come, we can always just have Cherki, Ekitike, and Thuram as the backup options, because this is for me what was wrong for Paris Saint-Germain in this season. Eminem wasn't the issue. The issue was when Eminem wasn't there and when other players weren't there. So when Verratti is missing, we have Thuram and Kone there, who will also be very competitive for those starting midfield roles alongside Vitinha and Warren Zaire-Emery in that midfield. Of course, Skriniar, as we already mentioned, another great centre-back that makes it even better for us. Guerrero, much better backup for Nuno Mendes, because when Nuno Mendes was missing and we played Bernat, we definitely saw the huge difference in Paris Saint-Germain's play. And of course, in attack, instead of Ekitike and Soler, we have Thuram, Cherki, and Xavi Simons possibly, and maybe even Hugo Ekitike will be better next season. So it's better, much better squad depth, because I think that's the most important thing. And of course, a brand new manager in Jose Mourinho. But then here's the second option. If Lionel Messi does not extend, then for me, it's very simple. You just try to get either an Osimhen or a Kolomwani to play up top instead of Lionel Messi. Kolomwani would cost around 80 to 100 million and Osimhen 130 million. So maybe Kolomwani is the player that will be joining Paris Saint-Germain this summer. Of course, we'll get a larger budget if Messi leaves with his wages off the books. So I think I've answered the question what Paris Saint-Germain need to do to become a contender and possibly win the Champions League next season, which is played in Wembley. The main things we need to do is, first of all, of course, get a decision. Are we going to extend Messi? Make it happen as soon as possible so we can start planning and preparing for the summer, because a Messi-less or a Messi with PSG is much different when it comes to what we're going to sign in the summer and when it comes to the budget. And Jose Mourinho or Thomas Tuchel, whatever manager comes to Paris Saint-Germain, will be an upgrade on Christophe Galtier. And the third thing, of course, is the squad depth that was heavily needed, and we definitely saw it against Bayern München, where two 17-year-olds had to play because of the lack of the depth. Let me know in the comments down below if there is anything more Paris Saint-Germain need to do to be able to be a strong contender and possibly win the Champions League next season. Other than that, make sure to smash the like button, subscribe to the PSGINT YouTube channel, and as always, allez Paris!